Okay, welcome everyone to our Ayurveda and Raw Food event. It's been almost 3 months since we got to Florida, and we've just been having so many questions about natural health, about detox. How does detox help? Why do we need to detox? And we always tell people that everybody needs a detox, at least, twice a year, especially people who eat animal products or vegan food, but cooked food, even raw foodists need a detox once in a while. So pretty much everybody needs a detox, and pretty much any disease can be reversed or healed with the help of detox, because detox is the most ancient healing modality. So, and then we also had a lot of questions about raw food, a lot of interest towards raw food, but also questions about what do Ayurveda and raw food have in common? Where do they coincide? And this is why we wanted to get together. This is pretty informal. We are just sharing some knowledge and experience and answering your questions. So, and we wanted to say that Ayurveda, as the most ancient science of health, it can explain anything and everything on planet Earth, right? When it comes to, at least when it comes to physical, to human body and human mind. So, of course, there is a place for raw foods in Ayurveda. So, and this is what Dr. Nature will be talking about today. And kind of, piecing it all together, creating the whole puzzle, detox and raw foods and Ayurveda and natural health. How can we be healthy with the help of detox and Ayurveda? And also, I wanted to mention that most religions, they do talk about fasting or Lent. So pretty much every religion talks about the importance of cleansing and detoxing in one way or another, because we have a lot of friends in the Krishna Consciousness, and this is where most of the questions have been coming from. So we just wanted to quote what Prabhupada said about raw food. He said, actually, a raw diet is the best diet for Krishna consciousness. It's simple, it keeps your body healthy and clear. We don't tell the masses about it because most people can't follow it, and we don't want them to get distracted from Krishna. But if you can do it, it's the best diet for your Krishna consciousness. So,
what book is that?
Yes, hope this meets you in good health. It's by Prahladananda Swami. Yes. And it's on page 73. If anybody's interested in seeing this in person. And actually, this book is very interesting because it also talks about the fact that his cook at some point was, I guess one of his cooks was from California, Southern California, with a raw food background. And so he was a raw foodist himself, and he started cooking more raw foods for Srila Prabhupada. And also a doctor in India recommended more raw foods when Prabhupada wasn't feeling very well. So wanted to welcome you again to our class. And so after Dr. Nature is done with his talk and answering the questions, I will do a little presentation, a demo of how to do raw vegan sushi. So stick around. Yes.
People who are ready to transition, who are looking for the further development or evolution, especially the mental evolution, we do recommend to try to transition. And after maybe 1 or 2 courses of detox with the raw food rejuvenation therapies, try to sustain their day-to-day life with raw foods until maybe the point that they see that the raw food may not be consistent with the way that they begin feeling, and would require to go back to the cooked food. So yes, and we want to create this constructive dialogue about discussing the raw food in Ayurveda, so that we can tap into some secrets of the energies and understand it further. And only by being positive, we can understand each other and create this environment, constructive conversation. Let's begin. We will start not speaking particularly about the raw food right away, but talk about physiology, the plane of our physical expression. One is our physical body, which is in Sanskrit called deho, or it is called stula sharira, or our anamaya kosha. Anamaya kosha means the sheath made of food. That's our physical expression. And the physical body is being studied and analyzed by modern day medicine. They do a great job in analyzing each and every organ and system. They go into tissues. Maybe the concept of the tissues and the importance of the tissues is not very much emphasized, but our physical body is woven out of tissues. There are 7 tissues, and by eating the regular physical food, we are nurturing and saturating our physical body, all these tissues, or we are cleansing. If we're using the detox nutrition and saturating nutrition, we're either cleansing our physical body or we are saturating it. Now, every time that we eat the physical food, we are due to accumulation of some metabolic waste products within the body, within the tissues, which actually can get stuck on the way out, because metabolism is the process that consists of assimilation and elimination. And the elimination pathways may get clogged because the elimination is a passive process. Assimilation is an active process. And as we see, people are mostly focused on assimilating the food versus the elimination, because the concept of detox is not very much articulated and is not very much practiced nowadays. All those superfoods that are being focused on at this point are in fact the cleansing ones, because as we see that the trend goes to reducing of the carbohydrates and increasing of the proteins. Now, what happens with these two? The nutrition can be viewed in 2 different aspects. One is the restorative nutrition, is the one that actually rebuilds our tissue and revitalizes organs. And the other is the energy nutrition, the one that provides us calories, right? And the energy that we require for day-to-day activities. Think of it as an oven that you put the fuel in. The oven actually gets worn out and requires some repair. To repair the oven, you need to stop putting the fuel in, you need to put the fire out, and then you need to rebuild the oven. So this is what we're trying to do. This is what the modern day medicine is trying to get. Now, there is another physical aspect as well, is the subtle body. And the subtle body is known less. Not many understand the physiology of the subtle body. And this is what we're going to talk about now. So the subtle body, or the mental body, is very important in understanding of our overall health, our physical health, especially the mental health, because we know that all diseases come from the mind. Now, let's dwell on that. So the subtle body has its physiology and the laws of the function. Subtle body is incorporating the etheric body, which is in Sanskrit called Prana kosha. This is the realm where we accrue the magnetism of the ether. Another part of the subtle body is the manamaya kosha, which is the mental body. Mental body has a lot of layers as well. We have the emotional layer, the karmic layer, astral layer of our mental body. The mental subtle body consists of subconsciousness, and this is very interesting now. Subconsciousness is our body. Our body is in fact our subconsciousness. Subconsciousness in Sanskrit is called Citta. It contours our physical body. It penetrates in each and every cell and nourishes it with the mental energy. The next department of the mental body is ahamkara, which is the ego. Very fine and very subtle energy that arises from Maya, the cosmic illusion, and makes us think that we are separate beings and makes us refer to selves as I am. I am an Ayurvedic practitioner. Once I say that, I am fully conditioned by ahamkara, by ego. Then we have the conscious mind. The conscious mind consists of 2 departments. One is the manas, physical mind, a functional mind that we always refer to. The one that we have the connection to the senses. The one that stands on the guard. It connects to the body through the senses. This mind actually gets developed from the birth. We are given the senses in order to explore the outside world. And the development of manas happens at that time. And this pathway is the sentimental pathway, because mind is connected to senses. Senses and mental. Sentimental. Anything that we perceive from the outside world is basically goes through that sentimental pathway perception. Any trend within the body is perceived by the mind. And then the mind acts upon that. It starts analyzing it. It analyzes quickly and it makes decision and it acts on it fairly quickly. sleep. Now there is another department of the conscious mind, which is called buddhi mind, also conditioned by ahamkara. This is more a reasoning mind, the intelligent mind that works on a background, and it takes time, works on a slower trend than the manas, justifies our behaviors. And there is one other very subtle expression of buddhi mind that is not conditioned by ahamkara. It's called mahabuddhi, transcendental mind. Through the lifetimes, we develop the connection to the divine through mahabuddhi. And that is the seed of the divine in our mind, which we really want to get in touch with and then evolve in line of, which actually leads us to the enlightenment. This is how our mental body is created. Mental body functions on prana. Citta, which is subconscious mind, that contours the entire body, is sustained on the specific energy expression of prana, the radiance of Agni. The prana consists of three components. And here it's very important to mention that we should not confuse prana, Vayu, which is one of the sub-doshas of Vata dosha, with prana itself, which is the life force. Prana is the primordial energy, which brings everything alive. We do not confuse these two. When we harness prana, it unveils into these three stages. The first stage of prana is marut, that coincides with vata dosha. Marut creates the magnetism. Electromagnetic field, in fact, should actually be reversed. It's magneto-electric field. Magnetism is primordial. It comes first. So the magnetism, relationship between two forces of male and female nature, and they go into the vortex. And after that, once the vortex is created, then the second part of prana is unveiled, and that is the Agni. Agni, the second part of prana, starts with the energy of bright light. Once the friction happens within the vortex, that brings about the spark. Spark is the first expression of Agni. It is our Sahasrara chakra, the qualities of white light, cold, and very bright. And this is the type of energy that sustains our mental realm and nurtures our subconscious realm. In Chinese medicine, they call it qi. Then the qi begins to transform into different spectrums. We call them chakras. And chakras, they have multiple functions. One function is restructure the intensity of qi according to the specific organs within our body. Another function of chakras, this is the point where our subtle body connects to our physical body. Chakras, they have the specific rotation, and in order to preserve that rotation, we need to be careful how we raise our kids and the emotions that we introduce to our kids, whether they're going to be emotionally mature or they can have some emotional inconsistencies and imbalance, which can then produce some undesired effect later in life. The Citta is the subconscious realm. We underestimate what role it plays in the way that we perceive the world, in the way that we think, in the way that we act. What happens with our subconscious realm is that it retains the distortions of our perception, of our conscious mind, which is connected to the body through the senses. Those distortions find their way and nest inside our subconsciousness in the form of very distinct electromagnetic fields that then reside within our subconscious realm. These distortions are called samskaras, distortion on the mental perception of specific situation. And the more we create these samskaras inside our subconscious realm, the more we become stereotypical and we perceive things in a wrong, distorted way. Because the mind, as it is very quick, it always refers to our previous experiences. Once we are placed in a situation which is a different situation with different setting and with different people, our mind would still look for the point of reference in order to know what to do and how to act in this specific situation. And instead of resorting to the higher expression of itself, to the buddhi mind, the intellectual mind, which can also be involved in the decision making, the manas quickly refers to the previous experiences because it has the very well-established pathway of sentimentalism. It refers to those samskaras that are nesting within the subconscious realm. This is the easiest pathway for the mind to understand the current situation, and it quickly gets the response, which then then is projected to the current situation and the mind acts on it. Samskara hardly gets resolved. Samskara also has the phantom, the emotional phantom over it. It has the intellectual and informational data stored in it, as well as the emotional phantom, which is created when digested by the chakra, and the emotional aspect also joins the creation of samskara. Our mind would perceive the emotional content of samskara first, and then based on the emotion, the type of thinking will develop. So we always think in the format of our emotion. Within the subconscious, we have a lot of previous experiences, not only of this life, but of the previous life too. When our body dies, the manas actually dies with it. It goes away. And all we retain is our mahabuddhi, which is the final transcendental mind. And then we retain the subconsciousness, the citta. And the citta is full of samskaras. The nesting of these samskaras does not allow the citta to resolve itself and to dissolve and liberate our spirit. But the citta, the subconsciousness, full of samskaras, is bound to reincarnate again and put on the physical sheath in order to sooner or later understand and start resolving the samskaras within. Each samskara may be also affected by the dosha. A samskara would contain emotions that are very pertinent to the dosha. It can also be a positive. It doesn't have to all be negative. And the positive samskaras, the samskaras of exaltation and joy, they are something that is in balance and unresolved. For example, the love to the ice cream actually creates the samskara, but of a positive connotation that nests in our subconscious realm and always communicates to our mind, making this sentimental pathway always active. And at every given time that the mind sees or gets the hint of the ice cream, it starts immediately craving it. Why is it craving? Because of that sentimental pathway that connects the mind to samskara, samskara of pleasure, samskara of joy, that starts craving this ice cream, and then the mind does everything to satisfy that desire. Manas, the mind, is always guarding the body, and the body is our subconsciousness. It hosts a lot of samskaras of pleasure, samskaras of aversion, basically two trends. And samskaras, they are perceived in our body as the sensations. And here we go. Everything is connected to sense and mental. A sensitive person, sensational. When we say sensational, this is the samskara at work, makes us crave or avoid certain things in life. They can be little ones, they can be bigger ones. They all are nesting inside our citta. They activate and they come down and they activate again. They are of different size, and they reside in the karmic layer of our mental realm. They hanging on the nadis like grapes on the vine, those samskaras. Our mental realm is polluted by samskaras. Our citta mind, which is the subconscious mind, is all full of samskaras, and they're always at work. They're activating, they're becoming pacified. Once you get that portion of ice cream, you pacify your samskara, and it actually just gets inactivated until the next time that you see ice cream again, right? So it satisfies and then it comes down. And then another samskara is surfacing up and starts activating. The way you know which samskara is prevailing at the specific time is by your thinking. When you think, analyze your thinking. The thinking, is it negative thinking? Is it a positive thinking? What are you thinking about? And this thinking of manas is associated with the active samskara in your subconsciousness. And this is the point when we're trying to tame our mind and make it calm and pacified and not thinking, we're trying to inactivate the samskaras and not respond to the language of our body. I know my body craves for pizza, for example. That's what it needs now, and I will go with that. And a lot of people say, you know, I know what my body needs. And this is ignorant way from the spiritual aspect. So there is no spirituality in sentimentalism. We need to detach from the body. We should not consider it part of our spiritual realm. The body has nothing to do with. So the reference to the body is not very a conscious reference. The real task is, in fact, to eliminate and annihilate samskaras and optimize the subconsciousness in the best way possible. Another thing is that once the samskara grows on the nadi, it blocks the conduction chi energy to a specific area of the body. And that area of the body gets deprived of this very important vibrant energy. And that area of the body then is bound to accumulate some sort of disease. Subtle body is the foundation to our physical existence in the physical world. The more we purify our subconsciousness, the more chance we have to develop as the spiritual beings. Satchitananda. Satchita means the pure subconscious realm. So if you want to achieve Anandamaya kosha, which is the spiritual realm, you need to purify your chitta. We've mentioned two planes of our physical existence, and that is the physical body that consists of the seven layers, seven tissues and organs and systems, right? And the subtle body, the mental body, which is the chitta, nadis, marmas, marmanis, chakras, and the conscious mind, which is the manas and buddhi, and of course, ahamkara. Now let's connect it to the food. How does the food affect our physical health and the mental health? Take the cooked food, for example, just the material, physical expression of the food that is deprived of the vibrancy of the living component. Cooked food can take different stages. It can be only lightly cooked and retain most of the vibrant components still, but it will be reduced. Really, the cooked food is more like a fossil fuel. It is much harder for the body to transform the fossil fuel into the energy, where it is easier for the body to transform the energy into energy under the condition of the mental preparedness and a different quality digestion, because digestion plays a huge role in terms of how we can process either the cooked food or the raw food. So before we transform to raw food, we need to really purify our digestive agni, the digestive power, and reset it. And the mental preparedness, because if the person is closed-minded about the raw food because of previous experiences maybe, or because of other people's stories that actually create this samskara in their mental subconsciousness, of course, the reality is such that those people may have made mistakes on the raw food, the notion about the raw food, and based on even the individual experience where they were not ready to digest the raw food, or they were not really ready to process that prana, because prana, once it enters our body, requires a good quality processing too. Otherwise, because of the digestive agnis in the jataragni in our stomach and buddhagnis in our liver, they need to be purified and functional in order to be able to process the prana into that mental energy, into the chi. It requires to be able to ignite the friction. If the digestion is not capable to ignite the friction, and that happens according to the enzymes and the microbiome, the specific kind, and this is why our digestive tract is so innervated. There's a lot of nerve endings inside of our digestive tract, even more so than in any other organ other than brain, probably. That is actually there in order to harness the chi, and the chi is, in fact, is the electricity. In fact, in the word electricity, we see this syllable si, chi, original chi. Chi or chi energy is well known to Tibet medicine, and in Japanese they also practice Reiki, for example. Ki means chi. That's when we're trying to optimize the flow of chi through our subconscious realm. So the prana of the raw food, if that is not processed correctly by our digestive tract and our mind is still closed, then it will turn into vata. Of course, then we end up with the vata vitiation, and vata is a destructive force. Vata then will get person to debilitate, to deplete of nutrients, push out the kapha dosha, decrease the pitta dosha, it will decrease the agni, create the unpleasant effect within the body. But if we attune our digestive tract and the entire being to correct processing of the prana, of the food and other external source prana, then we we can convert the prana into the good quality chi energy, and we can saturate our Citta in a very good way. And this will create the ultimate possible health. It will make our subtle body vibrant and radiant. And just by that, the physical body will get optimized on its own. Other than the aspect of retaining the food vibrant and keeping the vitamins alive, prana, it's actually purifying our subconscious realm from the samskaras. Because if we increase the flow of chi through our subconscious realm, that will destroy the samskaras. The subtle body requires the better saturation of this subtle mental energy in order to retain its vitality and in order to be able to neutralize the samskaras. They can actually be effectively dissolved with a more intense flow of chi energy through our nadis. And this is the primary benefit of the raw food in terms of our mental realm. The cooked food does not affect our mind. The cooked food, if it's prepared in the right way, if it's prepared with consideration of the bodily energy, can also do a great benefit. It can purify the body in a quality manner. We don't only eat cooked food all the time. We also eat raw food like salads and fruit. The alkaline, the base environment neutralizes the acid environment. And with the raw food, we increase the alkaline environment. We cook and we undercook, then we retain some of the pranic component. When we cook it well enough, the aromas of the food are being released, that prana evaporating away, because prana has the aroma. It has the specific prabhava, which is the special effect of the food, which is now being lost when we're cooking it. But if we're eating it right away after we've cooked it, then we can retain some of the prana because it's still kind of lingering there. At the same time, it breaks down the very hard fiber of the food and make it more available to our digestion. The cooked food will not sustain, will not saturate and nourish our mental body, but the raw food does. The raw food has that component that nurtures the mental body too, that makes it more vibrant and radiant. Prana is chi, basically. It has the chi component already in it, as well as it has the marut component and soma component in it. So that's all within the prana. But when we talk about specifically the mental realm, it is that energy, that fraction of the energy that sustains our mental realm, nurtures it, and that cleanses it too. Very important. And this is why raw food doesn't only cleanse the physical body, which it does, but it also cleanses the subtle body, the main benefit of it. So any question about this?
So the question is, what is the recommendation for people who are transitioning to raw food? A lot of people do 80-20 ratio or 70-30. What is the recommendation there?
Do a cleanse and then rejuvenate, do the rasayana of the raw food. This, in fact, is the best rasayana when we go on the raw juices. That is taken all the pulp out. And that way we are not multiplying the microbiome, which is the later stage, because after detox, everybody jumps into the microbiome, but we don't rush into optimizing the microbiome right away with probiotics and prebiotics. We need to still kind of allow the prana rejuvenation phase, which is in the purified juices, especially the sour fruit. The first element, it has like most of the enzymes. It is the very young energy, organic acids, the vibrant acids that are full of prana. Is it damaging to the stomach? No, it is not. The sour fruit, like grapefruit, lemon, and pineapple, yeah, they are not damaging because the organic acids cause base reaction. It is the inorganic acids. It's not the fresh acid. It is the processed acids that would cause the acidity.
So the apple cider vinegar that a lot of people are into, but I kind of nice.
Yeah, apple cider vinegar, in fact, and umeboshi plum vinegar, two vinegars that retain the organic component. So apple cider vinegar is, in fact, is a good product, but on the other hand, it's like semi good product.
Right.
It's not like fresh pineapple juice, of course, better so than any other vinegars. of course. It all depends on how you prepare these vinegars. When we ferment the juice, for example, right, that turns into the wine, we can ferment it to a specific stage and then get the benefit of it too. One part of the prana, the other is the living enzymes, and that can actually help in breaking down the very hard and tough toxins like lipoprotein toxins, heavy and sticky pollutants within our body, and the organic acids do a wonderful job in diluting and emulsifying these substances and pulling them out of the system. So this is why we want phase of the raw juices and enzymic phase without our microbiome first, but just taking the juices.
No fermented at the beginning.
No fermented in the beginning, no, not at all. Just the fresh raw juices of the sour fruit.
That's the first step.
That's the first step. The second step is the green juices. That's the second step. The first one is the sour fruit juices. Then we do the green juices. And that is the restorative nutrition, right? But still pranic restorative nutrition. The juice will start providing some soluble fiber, which is the best prebiotic for our physical digestion, and that will provide the greatest base for the probiotic then to appear naturally. Yeah, we can juice kale, we can juice any herb, parsley. Well, it has the roughage, but when we juice it, we take the roughage out. We only leave some of the soluble fibers in it. Well, spirulina itself is already not a juice. It's basically a microorganism. It's more like a seaweed or the type of algae, which has a lot of oligopeptides for the restoration of the body, not fueling of the body, but restoration of the body. Amino acids, majority of them our body produces, and only 9 essential amino acids that we need to supply from the external. So we begin with the sour fruit, we go into the green juices, and then we go into the root vegetable juices. After that, we go into the green smoothies. Now we are introducing the tough fiber. Yes, and that is already after some period of time of growing our own microbiome, which is the best way to do. But then once we start drinking vegetable juices or green smoothies, we may feel the inconsistencies with our digestion. And if we do that, that means that we were not growing our own microbiome and we need to take some supplemental probiotic. That should be all. We do not really specifically require any prebiotics, but some people might, but that might not be necessary if we do it correctly stage by stage. And only then when we start taking the green smoothies, we can introduce the probiotic if that is required by people that cannot sustain their own microbiome, digestion is not yet adapted to it, or the energies prevail, like kapha energies would require more probiotics, pitta would not require many probiotics, or vata may require some probiotics too. And the prebiotic we get in the form of the soluble fiber of the juices, yeah, people who fast for extensive period of time for 24 days to 40 days, then they start drinking water a little bit, sip by sip. Or if they do it the water fast, then they would start drinking the clear juices filtered out of the even soluble fiber. This is how clear and fine the enzymic content of the juice should be in order not to create any confusion.
You know, the whey protein and the pea and all those proteins better, the one that you said before, the hemp.
They're very complex proteins, very tough polypeptide chains, tightly comprised together. And our digestion has to secrete a lot of acid in order to break the protein. That happens in the lower part of our stomach where the proteins are digested. And they hardly get digested in the small intestine, even though we have the trypsin, which is the enzyme to break the proteins in the small intestine. But that is not very much potent one, because main digestion that happens in the small intestine is the carbohydrates, but the main digestion of proteins happens in the stomach, and it retains some of its structure when it gets into our bloodstream. And once it is not broken into the basic particles, amino acids, then it poses the threat of being antigen instead of being a nutrient in our bloodstream. And to that antigen, our immune system produces antibody. The resolution of that reaction is formation of pus. If the liver elimination pathways are clogged and congested, then the body retains those metabolic wastes, the products of the antigen-antibody reaction, and it starts storing it in the cavities and in the tissues, because the body cannot allow the blood to be impure, because that will affect the mind and that will pose the threat to the entire system to different systems and organs. So the body finds the pocket or the cavity in certain tissue. Usually it is the connective tissue or the adipose tissue, the fat tissue, that the body will start putting those toxins into. And then we end up with pockets of pus inside of the tissues. And of course, that causes the further inflammation. Pea protein contains a lot of lectins because any seed and any grain and any legume in its conserved form is basically not a raw product. In fact, what is raw and how people understand raw is it's uncooked, but it is a poor definition to give the definition of something from the standpoint of what it is not. So, but we need to identify what raw food is. Raw food is the food that contains water. So raw means moist. Raw. When you think of raw, you need to think moisture. This is where the prana is most viable. Yes. If we're using the dry conserved seed, that has two energies in it, the consciousness and physical body of it. And when we sprout grains or seeds or nuts, or legumes, we introduce the moisture. We make it truly raw now. The consciousness part of it express these two forces, the female force of the mother and the consciousness, the male force of the father. When they come together, the chemistry happens. The first chemistry that happens between them is the bitter taste. And then as it goes, sour taste. And then when we see the full integration of these two, then we see the sweet taste. And this is how the fruit actually ripens too. It ripens from bitter to sour to sweet. And in different stages, it has different energies. And we can use those energies depending on the objectives that we want to pursue. Primordial energy, of course, is prana. And this is what we're trying to always retain. We made beautiful pranic enriched food. We now need to be concerned whether I'm going to be able to absorb and assimilate this prana and convert it in a correct way.
The colonics and how it applies in all this.
Colonic only addresses the large intestine. It does not go into the small intestine, very limited. And we're just cleansing the large intestine. And there is a point to which we can cleanse the large intestine too. With the large quantities of colonics, we confuse Apana Vayu. We make it reverse. And reverse Tapana Vayu does bad favors. So it has to really be considered to a moderate amount to a specific times when we're cleansing in a quality way. But what is more important than cleansing the large intestine even is cleansing the small intestine. The key point of the good quality cleanse, release the small intestinal content, including like most of the microbiome, because the huge part of microbiome is the conditional pathogenic strands of bacteria, which is undesirable. We don't want to multiply that. And once we are rejuvenating and we need to introduce positive strands of the bacteria, and then the negative strands of bacteria will grow on its own. We can divide the microbiome into the cleaners and builders. We don't want to multiply cleaners, we want to multiply builders. Each and every bacteria will connect to your mind and ask for food. The microbiome affects our mind asking for food. And we start craving, not because we think that this is what we want, but this is because what our bacteria wants. And the quality of the food that we want is the quality of the bacteria itself. So the bad strand of bacteria will definitely want some bad food. And then all of a sudden the person says, I know what my body wants. And it's actually pathogenic bacteria that is requesting that type of food. So when we release the small intestine, we call this procedure purgation. Whereas when we release the large intestine, we call that laxation. Purgation, this is when we release the content of the small intestine, free up the bile ducts and the passages of the bile, the liver pathways, in order to pull the toxic salts and toxins from the blood into the digestive tract and out. The pinnacle of the good quality cleanse is when we release the small intestine that affects the liver and releases the congestion that builds in the liver.
So the question is, when I was on raw foods for about a year, I put on a lot of weight. Why would it be?
The raw food, for example, cashew nuts, they are raw foods too. But cashew, right, the cashew nuts or sunflower seeds, which are not sprouted, they're also raw. They consider to be, or macadamia nuts. And usually what happens with raw food is that once they go on raw, they start lacking the heaviness in food. The heaviness, the bulkiness in food that has that the cooked food have. They start eating a lot of nuts and seeds. And and they are hardly sprouting them. The terminology needs to be a little more established and clarified of what is considered to be raw. Seeds and nuts and legumes that are not sprouted and not soaked, they are not considered to be raw food, or I would not consider them raw. I would just consider them, in conservation state, dormant state, where they still, the consciousness is not here yet. That means the prana is not here yet. It's in the akash. It's not yet manifested. So we need to wait until that actually manifests in order to start considering it raw. But it will manifest only under one condition, when the moisture is introduced as a motherly energy. And then once that happens, then we can consider that raw. And that can release the enzymes, and that can reduce the amount of lectins, because we know that when we sprout legumes or seeds or nuts, we reduce the amount of lectins. This is a huge mistake that many people do. They consider these products that are heavy but are not sprouted a raw food, and they emphasize them in their diet, and then they have to face the difficulties and challenges of this imbalanced nutrition.
Two more questions that are kind of similar. I became very weak and got a very weak and got a foggy mind after 3 years of raw foods. And second question, I feel like my mental capacity started to decline and I became very edgy and developed fears after a few years on raw foods.
The prana turns into vata, and vata is a destructive force. It is a reducing energy. It will reduce and deplete the tissue. It will affect the mind. That's what raw foods can do too. Yeah, people would start over it. And one factor is because of the lack of nutrients that the body require. And then on the mind, because of the lack of the feeling grounded. If the body is impure and retains lots of toxins and is not ready to convert the prana and fully integrate and saturate, is not yet ready to sustain just on the energy nutrition, then any attempts done by the illusion of the mind that I want it will actually end up failing. So we really need to be very logical and considerate of how we do it. Let's talk about nature's wisdom. We have two metabolic modes that we can live in, two main metabolic modes. The one is on the cooked food, and we call it the hot metabolic mode. This is when we have to convert the cooked food into the energy. This metabolic mode happens in the lower spectrum of Agni. And there's another metabolic mode, which is the cold energy synthesis, which is the cold metabolism, which is based on the raw food. And this is the primary metabolic mode, which is designed for us to eat the raw food as the nature has grown it. No other species in the world eats the cooked food other than human. And this is another question as to why humans require cooked food. The nature is so wise as it made us have these two modes for the survival mode. The first, the primary one, is when we have the abundance of the raw vegetables and fruit, and then we thrive on it. This is the realm where we thrive because we integrate prana. And the other metabolic mode is the survival mode. Whereas the first one is the thriving mode, the second one is the surviving mode, where we survive on the cooked food. In times of deprivation, such as an ice age, where there was no fruit and vegetables, people had to hunt animals and eat them. And this is the secondary metabolic mode, where we can still survive and live decent life based on the cooked food. And that happens through this metabolic aggregate, which is within our system, but secondary, and that is more waste producing, less of the energy releasing, but on the other hand, it takes more of the energy to be processed, and that has the effect of wasting our internal reserves of prana. So in the first mode, where we are thriving with the raw food, we're using the external prana of the cosmos versus our own internal prana. We are preserving our own prana and using the cosmic prana. Whereas when we start eating the cooked food, we're using our own prana and not using the cosmic prana. And that's how quickly our body will actually age and become sick, because it's using its own prana instilled within its cellular intelligence for longevity. We're just using that longevity in a quick manner by eating the cooked food. We still end up with adequate energy, with adequate tissue formation, but because of this metabolic aggregate for the secondary metabolism, we are able to utilize our internal prana, and that internal prana can then help our body to meet its needs in nutrients too. Every one of us needs to understand and realize what type of nutrition we want to practice. Little by little, the more we understand, the more we go grow into the knowledge, we need to admit things that we didn't want to admit initially because the reality is such. Ego cannot prevent us from expanding our knowledge. Something that I don't know today, I will probably learn tomorrow. The lineage that I come from is actually teaching specifically that, on how to balance the flow of prana through the subtle channels, through the chakras and marmas, and distribute the prana adequately through entire body and rebalance the, not just the bodily energies, but the subtle body energies, the mental energies, in order to purify the subtle realm, because that's another place we harbor a lot of toxic entities. I studied in the lineage of Vaidya Mishra. He was the master of our lineage here in the United States, a great practitioner. I admire him in so many ways. He recently passed away. He comes from lineage of Shakha Vansiya Ayurveda, which is the pranic Ayurveda, vibrational Ayurveda that teaches about the flow of prana through our subtle channels and how we optimize that. Those people specifically, once they engage into full yoga practice and Tai Chi practice, they will be able to properly convert the prana into the chi, and their body would be flexible and open enough to be sustained on chi mostly versus on the physical nutrients. When yogis assume the asana and go deep into asana, well, why do you think they're doing it? Why do you think the yogis do asanas? What's the point? Moving the energy through the channels, yes, right. And why are we moving the energy through the channels where we can just sit and wait and just? Well, yes.
Cycle,
Uh-huh.
moving stuff.
Removing stuff, exactly. Removing samskaras. This is why they're actually, because our body is our subconsciousness. So they view the body not as the physical expression. They don't think of their body as something that the allopathic doctor can treat, or they don't even look at that as the effect of the doshas. They looked at it from the standpoint of consciousness. This is the part of my consciousness. This is the subconscious layer where I harbor a lot of impurities, a lot of distortions of my perception. And until I resolve these distortions, I'm not allowed to ascend to higher realms. So this is why I'm gonna twist in order to know where to channel our energy now in order to purify and get it out. So that's the ultimate purification of the subtle body. So once we purify our subtle body, then we are given the path to ascend. So raw food will help us, but then again, because of those samskaras and the bodily needs, we will not be able to do that at the first try. But the more we persist, the more we will be successful. The more we go this path, the more we will see the results. And there will be some point that the body will so much purify, the channels will be so open, and the energy will be flowing so freely that the person will feel no depletion anymore. We know raw food is completely raw food is, and we know people who are pranic eaters, fruitarians. This is the one step to the pranic eating. Raw food is one step to fruitarians. The raw food will start with nuts and seeds, of course, maybe not sprouted, but just as long as they're not cooked, which could be damaging. So we need to watch here. We need to be very careful, especially in the early stages of raw foodism, what we're doing, in order not to damage, because the damage can be caused very easily. And then we need to proceed and drift away from the heavy raw foods as quickly as we can. But even if we can't, we need to sprout them. We need to blend them into dehydrated breads or cheeses or whatever they may call it. It's all about the mind and the mind's crave. The mind wants the cheese. Let's trick it. Yeah, trick the mind with this raw food cheese. Okay, it's cheese still. Yeah, it works. And this goes in stages. It's a nutritional evolution going from the standard American diet all the way to the pranic eating. It takes stages. Vegetarianism, veganism, more conscious veganism, and then raw foodism, and then a healthier raw foodism, and fruitarianism, and then vegetarian. Yes, so it's the ultimate purpose. If you want to step on this path, Ayurveda can help you. Ayurveda is a complete system. It cannot just leave somebody out and say, you know, you are not, you know, like in my realm. It's like, you know, it's not Ayurveda for us. It's us for Ayurveda. One story tells about ants looking at the elephant and trying to describe what the elephant looks like. And if an ant looks at the elephant from the back end, of course, the picture will be different than the ant looking at the front or on the side. One can say the elephant is a big column. The other will say that the ant is a round bubble, you know, and everybody will be right, but everybody will still be limited in the perception of the entire elephant. So no matter how limited we are in the perception of the entire elephant, we need to be open with our mind, trying to understand that the elephant can be so multidimensional that we are just not yet knowing all of the expressions of this elephant, and that we are on the path to learn it. And as long as the life has not yet ended, we're always on the process of learning. Many people think that we are just so limited to the raw food and that they are afraid to even talk to us. And they think that, oh, if I were to come early and understand that you are not only just advising us being raw, then I would do it earlier. Of course, we're not limited to the raw food because raw food is just a part. We're not limited. Generally, we're not limited. We're so open to understand that everything and anything is possible. So everything is possible and everybody is in their own individual space of time where they can practice only what they are given with at this point. Everything is in its divine time. If the person is not ready to integrate the raw nutrition or any other, you know, or veganism, even if the person is still in the standard American diet, of course, I cannot preach the breatharianism to them or fruitarianism or even the raw food or even the concept of veganism. What's important is that their inner strife, the desire to get better, to start researching and looking for the options of what is there better for me, how I can become better in a natural way. Another very useful tip, and that concerns the just entire nutrition, is to do the extensive chewing your food really well, all the way down to liquid consistency. Cabbage, for example, and carrots and root vegetables, the secret is to chop it as finely as you can into like very tiny pieces. And that way, your digestion will not have to struggle with the fiber. Grate it and slice it as thinly, and that will be more pleasant because more aromas will be released. You will feel the prana. It will be more juicy. It will be easier to chew. It will be easier to digest. And this is the secret for the raw food. Or else if you want to just go with like not chopped or not sliced, then you would have to chew a lot. So chewing just like cows do, you know, chewing and chewing, that's breaking the fiber down, releasing the juices. That's what we would end up doing. In the evening, have like some hemp seed milk. Yes. I just love hemp proteins. I just love hemp. You know, I think that's the best product other than maybe durian and maybe sprouted coconut. That is very ojas building. We really need the ojas. Ojas is very important. And another thing is do the cleansing, detoxes. Do the detox routinely, maybe once, twice a year, mindfully, understanding that you are fully ready for detox.
So here I have a total of 1 cup, and it's a combination of sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and almonds.
Okay.
So I just like this combination a lot. But of course, you can use pine nuts, you can use walnuts, pecans, whatever you like. And then you just process the nuts and seeds into powdery consistency, and then it starts sticking a little bit. So at this point, we want to add our spices. So I just want to add basil. Of course, you can add fresh herbs, they are best. But if you just need something, you know, on the go, it doesn't take a long time, feel free to add dry spices. Okay, I'm adding organic garam masala, And we like this brand especially, it's 24 mantra, because it doesn't have any nightshades. And so it has cumin, coriander, cardamom, black pepper, clove, and cinnamon. You can mix your own spices to make this kind of garam masala, but you know, this is ready to go, so it's easy.
So I'm adding some sugar powder in it.
Mhm.
With a dehydrated, dry green.
Mango, yes. Amchur is good, yes, for digestion. Mhm.
That makes it so flavorful.
Yes,
Have the name for garam chutney. Garam chutney.
yes. We made up our own name. Mixing garam masala with amchur makes garam chur. Okay, so salt. I'm not a big fan of salt, of course. Even if it's pure sea salt with no added ingredients. And the reason I don't like it much is because salt, rock salt, it ends up as sand and stones in the body. So that means gallbladder stones, that means kidney stones, that means calcified arteries and things like that. Arthritis, so all of those things, they come from using regular salt and of course cooked vegetables and some other things, but Brags, aminos. Aminos are better, and we like using coconut aminos. Yes. Yeah. So, so I'm gonna pretend like I'm adding salt there. Okay, then I like black pepper. And since we are not big fans of what do you call it? Nightshades, which is, do you know what nightshades are?
Yeah,
Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, yes. And there are many reasons for that. And the main reasons are that they're all very acidic. So they create an acidic environment in the body. And that's very conducive to the development of different diseases. And then also, individually, they cause their own harm. For example, potatoes are linked to diabetes. Tomatoes in older times were used to cause miscarriages in women. What else? Peppers, especially hot peppers, they are capable of, it's raining, they can cause arthritis and things like that. So we try to not just try, but we stay away from nightshades completely. And so if you need that spiciness, use ginger and black pepper. So that works just fine. So that's a little bit of ginger there. Okay, so that's it. And what we also want to do is to add a little bit of water so that the mixture starts sticking together better, so that it can be spreadable like pate. Maybe a little more water.
For the flour, like some people, substitute the rice for the cauliflower, like very ground cauliflower.
Yes, absolutely, yes. It's called cauliflower rice or rice cauliflower or rice broccoli. Yes, absolutely. Those are all great. A little more.
That's
They're like harsh to the body, they're like that's.
yeah. That's
Okay. Perfect. Sticky. And so this is what we get in the end. We get this like very soft Play-Doh. Okay. And so now this is ready to be used in our sushi. Oh, then the next part, of course, we need to prep our vegetables. And as Dr. Nature mentioned, the more finely sliced and chopped they are, the better. So you can use a grater for this purpose, or you can use a mandolin. But the idea is that everything needs to be very thinly sliced. So you can use carrots, you can use zucchini, you can use cucumber, even celery. And another secret ingredient, which is absolutely essential, I think, is fresh herbs. So they make all the difference. Once you add fresh cilantro or dill, or it just makes everything beautiful. Okay. So when making sushi, make sure that all your surfaces are dry. Because if the surface is not dry, if your hands are not dry, then the sheet will start curling up and get soggy. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we'll start with our pate. And usually we use about 1/4 cup of nut and seed pate per sheet of nori. So arrange your protein in such a way that kind of like in the middle of the sheet, but a little closer to you. Okay. And now we will spread it. Can you see? I'm trying to make it as visible as possible. So spread it. You can use a spatula, you can use a special tool, or a spoon works just fine. Okay, you can get as close to this edge as you want. Get as close to the sides as possible as well, because that way your the end pieces will not be empty. Okay, you can even it out, or you don't have to. Kind of like that. And then we put a lettuce leaf. So if it's kind of hard in the middle, you can break it up or slice it in half. Okay. Now, herbs go on top. You can actually get rid of the hard stems that are hard to chew. Or if it's dill, for example, then leave the stems there, leave them in. And I just love dill stems. They're so salty naturally and juicy, just absolutely delicious. A few years ago, when we still had the restaurant in Chicago, one of the summers, I was surviving and thriving actually on dill and grapes. That's what I was eating every day, all day long, grapes and dill, grapes and dill. And it just felt so amazing. Okay. Now, add the carrots. And the zucchini. So whatever vegetables you have. Okay. And another secret ingredient is avocado. And when you're trying to go raw, or when you're predominantly raw, avocado is your best friend. And coconut meat. Okay. So we'll place a few slices of avocado alongside the vegetables. Okay. Now we will need to roll. Okay, so when you get to this point is when you need to use a little bit of water. Okay. And roll as quickly as possible before the sheet starts curling. Okay. Okay, there we go. That's your raw vegan sushi. And in order to cut it, you need a very sharp knife. Serrated knife might be best. Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I usually start, that's not the best knife. There is a smaller one.
This one?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
I have one.
yes, this is good, yes. So make sure to not like press into it, but rather use it as a saw, back and forth, back and forth. And then you can make bigger pieces or smaller ones. Just like that. Beautiful, right? And you can also make your own dip. For example, ginger, lemon, date. Just blend them together with a little bit of water. Delicious, spicy and sour and sweet at the same time. So it caters to all the tastes. So just absolutely amazing. And it's a great party food as well, because when you make a tray like that, it looks beautiful, right? And then when you use different colors, like for example, beets, yes, beets, carrots, purple cauliflower, for example, it just, yeah, all colors of rainbow, yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who joined us in person and online. And we'll proceed to eating now.
That's right.
All right.
Well, I'm so sorry. I thought it was gonna pour down rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was so dark. Please forgive me.
Oh, no problem.
Sorry, do you want to move everything out here so people? Okay.